Now, another high-profile decision by the Supreme Court. In a unanimous ruling, the justices struck down 3 of Obama's recess appointments to the National Labor Relations Board. Now, why would they do that? We'll get to that in a minute. First, this decision gives the Senate broad power to basically thwart future recess appointments. So, no more easy recess appointments, right? Because Obama loves doing those. I mean, that's why the conservatives call him tyrant-in-chief. Did you know Obama made 32 recess appointments since he's been in office? 32. Tyrant-in-chief. Obviously, he's just waiting to bypass Congress so he can pack the government full of socialist czars that hate America. Unlike our great conservative president and demigod, Ronald Reagan. How many recess appointments did Reagan make? Yes, I'm beating up on Reagan again. It's beat up on Reagan Day. Well, the Congressional Research Service looked at all the presidents from Obama to Ronald Reagan and how many recess appointments they made. So, like I mentioned, the socialist dictator Obama made 32 recess appointments. Well, what about George H.W. Bush? 78. Big government Bill Clinton, 130 recess appointments. And George W. Bush, 171 recess appointments. Now, wait a minute, that's not right. I thought Obama was evil socialist dictator trying to pack the government. Oh, what about the great Ronald Reagan? Now, I'm sure he had to have done less recess appointments than Obama, right? Come on. Wrong. 232 recess appointments done by the great Ronald Reagan. Republican Jesus. When Reagan does it, it's more than in America. When Obama does it, it's unconstitutional government overreach. Now, the hypocrisy here is amazing. But I'm not done yet. I have to actually explain why the justices struck this down. Now, it turns out that President Obama tried to appoint them while Congress was still in session. Oh, you see that? King Obama ignoring the law. Not so much. Look, Congress was technically at work, if you could call it that. But they really weren't. They were in something called a pro forma session. Now, what the hell is a pro forma session? It's where Congress can claim that they were working without actually working. So they're there, but they're not really doing anything. Now, Dana Milbank wrote a piece about this in the Washington Post, and he sat down in one of these pro forma sessions. Now, he explains that these sessions are quick gavel-in, gavel-out sessions that can literally last a minute and prevent a sitting president from doing any recess appointments if they do one every couple of days. I think it's like 3 days. For example, Milbank writes, quote, on Monday, the House opened for business at 11:30 a.m. And after 3 minutes and 18 seconds, pretty much time for an opening prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance, well, God bless, literally, it recessed until a similar charade scheduled for Thursday. The Senate gavelled in at noon Monday, and dispensing with prayer and pledge, gavelled out a whole 28 seconds later. These sessions are legislative fuckery at its finest. Now let's be 100% fair. Democrats do it too. Harry Reid, during the Bush administration, did numerous pro forma sessions to block Bush appointments. Let it be known that I am the most fair man in America. Fair is fair. Now, Milbank points out how this only adds to the problem of a do-nothing Congress. He writes, quote, Congress has passed its 56 public laws this year, for a total of 121 since the beginning of 2013. This virtually guarantees the current Congress will be the least productive in history, well behind the do-nothing Congress of 1948, which passed more than 900 bills. But hey, look, remember, they don't want to get things done. They don't want to do anything. Remember John Boehner?
So you have presided over what is perhaps the least productive and certainly one of the least popular Congresses in history. How do you feel about that?
Well, Bob, we should not be judged on how many new laws we create. We ought to be judged on how many laws that we repeal.
They don't want to do the people's business. They don't want to actually govern. They want to block, try to repeal, shrink government down to where you can drown it in the bathtub, and fucking walk away. That's essentially what it is.
I actually don't agree with measuring the congressional success and the amount of bills that they pass. If they did repeal laws like, I don't know, drug laws and all these other kinds of crazy federal laws, then that is super productive. That's more productive than passing laws or whatever, but they're not even repealing anything, like except for Obamacare, 197 or whatever time. That's a made-up number. I know it's like 50. Except for repealing that in the House a bunch of times. I would love for them to repeal bad laws. Like, that's great. That's more productive than passing quote-unquote good-intentioned laws. But to get to the issue at hand, which is the Supreme Court ruling, this was a 9-0 ruling. And the Supreme Court didn't rule that recess appointments were unconstitutional. They ruled that the Senate and not the president determines when the Senate is in recess. It's pretty straightforward. Like, even though it's a legislative trick to prevent the president from appointing justices, the Senate has the legal prerogative to pull off that trick. And I just want you to think about it. If the president can determine when the Senate is in recess, then the president doesn't need the Senate to approve any appointments. Like, theoretically, he could just appoint 27 people to the Supreme Court. Like, you were in recess, sorry, fuck you. Like, because I said so. So obviously the onus is on the Senate to determine when the Senate is in recess. And the court said, I believe, if they're gone for like 10 days, then the default assumption is that they are automatically in recess. So, like, it's not a terrible ruling. It actually makes like the most logical sense probably of anything this court has ruled on. Like, the Senate determines when they are in recess. If they're gone for a really, really long time, then we'll call that a recess.
Okay, so like I agree with the part of that, like the Senate should, but the Senate shouldn't be playing these fucking games. And that's the whole problem with this, is that they're playing games with this in order to play partisan politics to block all appointments. And it's not, like I said, it's not just Democrats that are getting blocked. It's not just Republicans that are doing it. It's Democrats that are doing it too. And it's fucking breaking the system so that nothing gets done. And that is the whole problem here.
But in reality, recess appointments don't. I know Nick wants to go ahead, but in reality, the reason we have the recess appointments in the Constitution is because when it took the Congress months to get back to D.C. when this country was like founded, like there's really no need for that provision in the Constitution anymore, but it's still there, so you have to enforce it. But with jet travel and telephones and internet and all this, like, the Senate can be actively aware of what the president is doing in emergency situations that might require an emergency appointment. So, like, there's really no need for recess appointments anyway in the modern era. And so the fact that the Senate is doing tricks to effectively get rid of them in most circumstances is perfectly fine with me. Like, I really think this is, like, the biggest non-issue ever. The only thing is that this should also prove is when the Senate does go into recess and recess appointments do happen, like, that's just the Senate saying, we want you to appoint somebody that's bad because we don't want to take the heat for it. So just remember that. But other than that, I have no issues with this at all. And I hope they do it to every president.
It is. Right, it's very political. The big thing is, it would be a real non-issue if it wasn't for the context in which this is happening. And the context is, we want to try and minimize everything the president can do while still doing as little as possible so that he will leave office with a relatively unsuccessful federal or term in the federal government. That I think is the underlying goal here, and why I think that it actually is a bit of an issue. If this had been a situation where Congress is willing to actually work with the president, not demand he meet them on their terms and then give even more, and then when he doesn't do that, point fingers and say he's not negotiating and all that crap. But if they were actually trying to work together for the betterment of the country, this would be a great ruling. We wouldn't be having this conversation. The problem is that it isn't that way.
Definitely. Like, I would agree with Sean 100% if our government actually fucking worked. But now we have, especially one side that's trying to basically burn the house down. And that's a real problem. And games like this is just another way of saying, well, look, we don't like specific parts about the government. So we're not going to allow you, we're not going to pass anything through. Oh, you got appointments? Too fucking bad. We're not going to pass it. And now, okay, so president says, all right, well, fuck off. I'm going to go put my own guys in there. I'm going to do a recess appointment. And then the court comes in and says, nope, can't do it. Because they're playing these fucked up games? That's fucking stupid. This is why the ruling is an issue. It's not a non-issue. If things were great and things like actually worked the way they were supposed to, completely agree, Sean. We don't need the rule. It's modern day. Great. But the Senate is fucking broken. The Congress is fucking broken. And these games are just making it worse. That's why we need to do something. Like, there needs to be something done about this. These games need to be, like, they need to get rid of the ability to do these pro forma games.
But
if you're gonna have a session, actually do something.
Well, I don't understand what you wanted the court to rule. Like, first of all, it's 9-0, so this is like open and shut for the court. Secondly, what are they going to rule? That this is totally constitutional, but since we don't like the way the Congress is functioning right this minute, we're going to rule it constitutional, unconstitutional.
No, Sean, you're absolutely right about pointing that out. That's not the thing. It's the fact that this would come up now. That's the issue. You're right that the court is basically, it's in this case in particular, they're trapped by their own jobs and they're doing their jobs. I'm not blaming the court on this one at all. It's the fact that this became an issue at this time frame that is indicative of the problem. Not the court doing what it's supposed to do. That's a different thing.
Right? They're basically, what they did is that they pointed out a major problem with this ruling.
But
so we need to address this problem in whatever way we can. Like, maybe having the Senate change the Senate rules. That would be nice.
Well, I mean, Harry Reid already did that for certain judicial nominees. He got rid of the filibuster.
He did, yes. He removed the nuclear option, yes.
But
he did the nuclear option.
But, like, it's just like, I feel like on this issue, and the reason I wanted to do this story, besides the fact that I love talking about Supreme Court stories, obviously, was that this is like an issue of people blatantly making shit up about this ruling. Like, the court ruled something very, very specific, and people are saying that the court decided all of a sudden that recess appointments overall are unconstitutional just when Obama did it. Like, that's making shit up. They ruled that the Senate determines when the Senate is in recess. Period. End of sentence. It's really that simple.
And except what it means in this specific context, and it's not a contextual ruling. And like, you're right. I don't know what else they could have done for this ruling, but still, it this whole thing just points out how grossly broken our system is right now. That you can play these pro forma games and get away with it, and make it so that nothing works. And that's what I really wanted to point out.